Hi, I'm Hillary Hess, and you're listening to Helping of Happiness. Here at Helping of Happiness, we are here to help moms and families find more fun in family life, and we do that through family recipes that are delicious, travel tips, and home hacks, which you will hear a lot of on this podcast. I am a mom of 7 kids, and I've graduated in home and family at BYU, and I've learned a lot of different things through my mom journey, but things that I don't quite have a grasp on, I love to invite guests on this podcast so that they can teach us. So let's get into our guest today. We are so lucky to have my new friend, Becca Williamson, on today. She is the Director of Tourism for the City of Nauvoo, which is this charming, historic city that is so fun to visit. And let's talk here about you a little bit first before we get into all about Nauvoo.
Yeah, so I'm the tourism director for the City of Nauvoo, and I kind of came about that in a kind of a random sort of way. I grew up in the Nauvoo area, and my grandparents owned a historic farm out here, and it was built by the Icarians, which most people don't know who the Icarians were, but they were like this French communal socialist group that was here in Nauvoo for around 7 years in the 1850s. And so they owned this historic home. When after they passed away, I bought that home with the intention of preserving the history and stuff out there. And so I opened it as a wedding venue, and then was like got really involved in Nauvoo and promoting Nauvoo as part of my wedding venue. And then I promoted Nauvoo, and then one day they're like, "You should be tourism director," and so here I am.
Let's give you an official title with this job.
Yes, yes. So, yeah, that's kind of the roundabout way I ended up being tourism director for Nauvoo. I'm a business owner here as well, and yeah, I love Nauvoo, and I've been here in this area my whole life, so I know a lot of stuff about Nauvoo and Nauvoo history.
Oh,
And
yeah. You
yeah.
know it inside out. That's so cool. Oh, I love that. Okay, so for a lot of people that maybe haven't been to Nauvoo before, we've been lucky to go as a family a few different times. It's up in Illinois, and it's not near Chicago. It's right there on the Mississippi, and
Yes.
I just don't think you understand what a gem it is until you go and see it, because it is very unique. Will you just tell us what makes Nauvoo such a special destination?
Well, it's beautiful. The word Nauvoo actually means beautiful. So we're right on the Mississippi River. I always tell people, if you picture the state of Illinois, it kind of has a nose, or a little bump out, and Nauvoo is right on that bump. So we're about 4 hours south of Chicago, 3 hours north of St. Louis. So, we're kind of in between the two big cities and in the middle of nowhere. Nauvoo is a cute little charming town, and you might not have heard of it unless you're a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So this is where Joseph Smith and that church was before they left to go to Utah. And so our whole downtown has been recreated to that time period, so the 1840s, when Joseph Smith was here. And there are over 30 homes that you can tour free of charge to learn more about what life was like in Illinois in the 1840s and what it was like to be a pioneer in the state of Illinois, and learn more about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and their history and what they went through when they were here in Nauvoo.
Which I love. And I try to explain to people, if they've been to Colonial Williamsburg, has a little bit of that kind of idea where it's a very historic town, it's been recreated, but it doesn't cost anything. And that's even better, right?
With a big family, you can do all this fun historic stuff, and it really kind of makes the history fun for kids too, with a lot of the hands-on stuff where you really learn about history by being here. And then yeah, it is free. It's so much fun. It's a great escape from life and from reality, to feel like you're a pioneer in the 1840s in Nauvoo.
Learn how to make those rugs and those rope. That was the
Yes.
highlights for my kids. They loved being little pioneers and learning how to do that. So what are some insider tips that you have? Like, you gave me some great insider tips when we came out to visit, like the best places for a sunset and where to grab a treat, get a best photo, all those little things that we always want to know when we're going on a vacation because we really want a great place to have a family picture when we're somewhere. And we always want to know the best place to bring our kids for an ice cream cone or whatever it is that we need to do. So tell us
Yes.
all those little nitty gritties that we need to know.
Sunsets are the best in Nauvoo. I mean, they are just incredible. And the best spot to watch a sunset is right in front of the temple here in Nauvoo. It's right on Bluff Street. You cannot miss the temple when you drive through Nauvoo. It's right on the highway, and that spot right in front of the temple is amazing for watching sunsets. And as you might have noticed, it's very popular. Sunset watching is a popular activity here in Nauvoo, and so when you pull up there, you'll see several other people standing there by the statues of Joseph and Hiram, and just watching the sunset because it's spectacular every day.
Spectacular. I would highly, highly recommend it. And as a person who loves a sunrise and a sunset when I go to a destination, I mean, it really knocked it out of the park, those sunsets there were
Yes.
incredible.
They are super incredible. My other favorite sunset spot is at the end of Parley Street. So that river walk, where the saints cross the Mississippi River at the end of the Trail of Hope. That is really a nice spot to watch the sunset across the river there too. And there's a nesting pair of bald eagles down there. So if you're on the river walk, you can kind of turn and see the bald eagle nest in the tree there, and they fly across, and watching the birds and stuff right there at the end of Parley Street is really incredible, and the sunset. And sometimes at right at sunset, the pelicans will fly in like they're going to their nesting spot, and you can watch this big group of pelicans fly across, and I love that. It's one of my favorites.
It's
So,
fun to go to Nauvoo because you have those little naturey spots intertwined with the historic areas,
mhm.
which we really enjoyed. And I think sometimes it's nice, especially with a family, to be able to take those little breaks away from the busy hustle bustle and just enjoy
I
the outdoors.
agree. It's nice to get the kids away from some of this more structured stuff and just let them run and be kids, and they find places to play outside. And David's Chamber, which I sent you to, is one of my
Mhm.
kids' favorite things to do in Nauvoo. Um that is the one. My kids are older now, and that's one of the things that they remember going and doing is go swinging by David's Chamber. Um there's a stream that goes through there. I think it was kind of a little on drought conditions when you were here,
It
but,
was not much of a stream, but the kids still played over it and jumped over
yes!
it and enjoyed the bridges and
Yeah, it's
everything.
just a little stream, and, in July when I usually had my kids out here for pageant, that stream was, like, really cool, and it was a great way for my kids to run around and play and cool off and splash and get really muddy and messy, and then we went back and took a shower. But, um but that was like, when I'm talking to my kids now, that was one of the things that they really loved and remembered, was that little trip by David's Chamber and playing in the stream, and just kind of that quick little getaway from town and relaxing. Some of my other favorite spots in Nauvoo are the herb garden behind Lyons Drugstore. That one is like, you have to be in the know to know it's there, because I don't think there's even any signage for it, but, it is a beautiful herb garden that's just filled with all these different herbs, and if you're a gardener, or even if you're not, just going through and smelling all the different herbs through there is so fun. And then they have this huge arch that they plant gourd vines over every year, and so you walk through the tunnel of those gourd vines, and that's amazing. I love that spot. Um, and you found the fairy wings and the fairy doors. Um,
Yes, it's so fun to see those on Mulholland Street. Go ahead, keep telling us about the fairy doors because that was a huge highlight for especially my
yeah,
little girls.
they went through, and they hid fairy doors all over Nauvoo, and so on the side of the buildings, and just hidden all over through downtown Nauvoo, there are like over 30 little tiny doors.
Oh my
Um,
goodness, we didn't get close to finding that many. We should have
there's
been
a
better detectives.
There's a ton of them, and they are hidden all over, and they're these cute little tiny fairy doors. They're all different. Each door has kind of like a different little theme to it. And then down at the Riverwalk, they have a ferry Airbnb. And so it's like
Oh,
this whole
cute.
little dollhouse looking thing for the ferries. And they're just so much fun to find, and they're like hidden all over. And so you can kind of like stumble across one and then go and try and find more. And yeah, that is a favorite activity for the kids to run around because you have to be in the know to know they're there because they're kind of
Yeah.
hidden, and it's a fun little surprise, kind of like a little Easter egg surprise there.
I wouldn't have even noticed if you hadn't told me to look for him, because then all of a sudden all our eyes were out and we're looking for him, and it
Yes,
was just so cute. And then they have in one of the yards, someone had like a big fairy house that my kids thought were super cute too. Anyway, it was just
it is. It's
fun
so
little.
fun. It is so fun. We just and then of course the great big fairy wing cutout that you can do with the
Oh, I
photo.
know. We love the photo op, right? Especially my
Oh yeah.
teenagers. My teenage daughter was like, "Oh yes, let me get in the fairy wings."
Oh,
So
all of us like the photo op thing, and yeah, those fairy wing cutouts. They did an awesome job painting those, and they're fun. And it's in that little hidden garden area right by the Weld House Museum, and there's like some yard games out there, and that's a fun little spot too. So yeah,
love
fun
it.
fun little hidden things all over Nauvoo. And I love my job because I get to talk about all those fun little hidden things and share them with people and have you guys help find them and share that fun.
I love it. Well, and it's not anything I'd ever heard about before, so I was really glad that I asked you for those things before we went so that I had the insider scoop on all of that. Now, what
Yeah.
about tell us about good places to eat, because I mean I'm from Dallas, Texas, where we have kind of a million restaurants within about 10
I
minutes of my house. So, it
I
was a
know.
little bit of a surprise for my kids when they were like, "Wait, there's like two places to eat," especially when we went in the off season, right? A lot of things
Yeah.
weren't as
And
open, but
and that's always like one of the things, like people come from, bigger cities and they say there's nowhere to eat because they're looking for McDonald's, and we do not have the
right,
golden
there's
arches.
nothing like that, but they do have some cute things, and I feel like they're part of the charm. So let's talk about that,
Yes.
because
Yes.
I don't think you
So
have to have your fast food joints that you're comfortable with to make it a fun trip. Sometimes the
yeah.
fun is that you don't have those things.
Right. And all of our businesses here in Nauvoo are locally owned, family owned businesses. And that I think I know I personally prefer to spend
Mhm.
my money with somebody that I know I'm actually supporting that person. So that to me, I love being able to do, know that I'm not supporting some big corporation. I'm supporting a family. And so one of my favorite places to promote here in Nauvoo is the Red Front, which I know you guys stop by the Red Front, and actually,
Mhm.
like, everybody stops by the Red Front. The Red Front is open 6 days a week and is a staple here in Nauvoo, and it's perfect for families. Um, Morgan and Jordan Squire do an amazing job with that little restaurant that they own, and they have a big family, and so they plan for big families in there, and they just have food for families, and it's quick, it's grab and go stuff. They even have like take home family meals. So you can swing
Oh,
by and
cool.
do a take and bake lasagna or something like that. But the ice cream bricks or just even a simple ice cream cone is a great snack. They also are currently making the cookies that you can get at Scoville Bakery. So if you go through Scoville Bakery and get the cookie, they come from the Red Front, and so you can buy a whole big package to take home. And that's if I'm going somewhere and I need to take something, I usually swing by and grab some cookies from the Red Front because everybody loves them and they're amazing.
I thought it was so fun. We actually went twice when we were there because we were like, this place was so fun. And the one night they have the made to order burgers, which was
Mhm.
great. It's not just something that's sitting under a warmer. So we were
No.
happy about that. And we got into town at like 7:45 at night, and it closes at like 8 o'clock. So we were like booking it to get over there before it closed because we were all hungry, but it
Yeah.
was great. And then we had, I don't know, some sandwiches or something too. And then the next day, is when we went to watch the sunset at the temple and we got the ice cream. So my kids loved the soft serve and I
So
got one of
good.
the bricks, and the brick is fun because if you think of trying to get a good visual for our audience that's listening on audio, on video, I'll have a little picture of this, but it's almost like you can make it in a pan with like a crust and then you put ice cream over it and then they chop it up into bricks and serve it like that.
And that's
Is that
exactly
how
what
you would
she
imagine it?
does. She
Yeah.
makes a big pan of ice cream and chops that up into these nice, wonderful ice cream bricks. Morgan chose the brick because bricks are so important to a lot of the buildings and structures here in Nauvoo, and so she wanted the ice cream brick. And so, yeah,
It
that's
was I
cool.
loved it. I thought it was the cutest tie-in ever to have a brick. It's the treat ice cream in Nauvoo. I thought that was just perfect. And then
Yeah.
we also had to get the root beer there because they have the old-fashioned root beer that we loved to get those
Yes.
bottles.
Yeah.
That was a hit.
When the Red Brick store was sold to the church, they can no longer sell the root beer at the Red Brick store. So if you've been to Nauvoo in the past and you got the root beer, they cannot do that at the Red Brick store any longer. So it is at the Red Front. I believe they also have it at the Fudge Factory in around town, the old Nauvoo root beer. So you
Okay.
can still have it. It's just not at the Red Brick store. So um,
Well, and it was actually perfect because we could have it with our burgers, and who doesn't like root beer with their burger, right? It was great.
yes, yes, we love it, and it's so fun to have that old Nauvoo root beer because that's one of people's memories of being in Nauvoo is getting that, and so we were glad that we were able to redo that and have that back, and that actually goes to support Grow Nauvoo. So Grow Nauvoo is a nonprofit that works on helping support the businesses in the community here in Nauvoo. So it's really cool.
That is really cool.
We have Hotel Nauvoo is the buffet. It was started in 1948, and it's still the same family that owns the Hotel Nauvoo today. And yeah, it's a great buffet. And it's just like that old fashioned buffet that we remember as kids that isn't around much anymore. And so everybody loves Hotel Nauvoo. They're open on weekends. And then we have Fireside Barbecue. They're downtown. And that's one that you do need to check the hours before you go because they're open seasonally and their hours do change seasonally. But yeah, it's smoked barbecue meat, and it's probably not Dallas, Texas style, but it's
It's
close. They
okay.
try. Right.
I will try all kinds of barbecue. I'm here for whatever fun local place there is.
Yes, they do a really good job with it, and that's one of my favorites here in town too, is getting, Fireside, the barbecue. And then we do have, like, Block 19, they do smash burgers, and Groovy Grandma's is a breakfast place, and, Annie's Custard, they have salads and stuff, and then custard ice cream. So there is food in Nauvoo, but yeah, it's small, locally owned family places. You do need to check the hours before you go. Just
Yeah, which I think is half the fun of going on a trip is that you want to have a different experience than what you have at home. At home, you can have your normal things all the time. So it's fun to have something different when you go somewhere else. I think that's half
yeah,
the fun for me.
I I think so too. Personally, that's what I try to do when I'm on vacation. Is I never eat at a chain that I can have at home. And I always try to support family-owned places because honestly, the family-owned places have the best food anyway. So that's usually what I look for when I'm on vacation.
And the charm. I love the charm. That's super
Mhm.
fun. So let's talk about the people who lived in Nauvoo, which is one reason why this is such an incredible place, is because of all the history that happened in Nauvoo. Do you have a story about a favorite person or family that had lived in Nauvoo?
I will tell one of my favorite ones to talk about right now is Lane Newberry. And Lane Newberry's history in Nauvoo is like part of like Nauvoo's story today. So Lane Newberry was a descendant of some of the pioneers that lived here in Nauvoo. But he actually lived in Chicago as an ad executive. So he was an artist. In if you think of the Mad Men movies where they're doing the art and the in the 1930s and 40s, that was Lane Newberry. And when he retired from that ad world in Chicago, he decided to come to Nauvoo because this is where his ancestors were from. And so he retired with the goal of painting every single building in Nauvoo as it would have looked like in the 1840s. And so he painted a ton of pictures here in Nauvoo. And when you go to the cultural hall on the third floor, they have a ton of Lane Newberry's paintings. And there's also Lane Newberry paintings at Hotel Nauvoo. But my favorite story from Lane Newberry is how he was part of Nauvoo Restoration Incorporated. So when he came to Nauvoo, a lot of the buildings here were in severe disrepair. And um, Dr. Kimball was a Salt Lake physician, and he bought his great great grandfather's home and restored it. And then so many people came to see it that he and Lane Newberry went together and tried to start um, a corporation, a nonprofit, to restore all the homes here in Nauvoo. So Lane Newberry painted paintings and and sold them to raise funds to purchase buildings and start restoring them. And that became Nauvoo Restoration Incorporated. And that's what we see today when we're here in Nauvoo, all these buildings that were restored. It was started with the help of Lane Newberry selling these paintings. And Lane Newberry painted a picture of the temple and what the temple would look like. And that painting ended up with Gordon B. Hinckley's father. And Gordon, he loved
Um,
that painting of the temple, and he gave it to Gordon B. Hinckley and said, we should rebuild the temple. This is what it should look like. And Gordon B. Hinckley, of course, is the prophet who declared
who
that
got
we
that
were
all
rebuilding the
going?
temple,
Yeah.
and he started it, and he was able to do that. And so that painting by Lane Newberry hangs in the Nauvoo Temple today. So
That is really cool. That is really neat.
it is such a fun story. And yeah, all those Lane Newberry paintings are on the third floor of the Cultural Hall. Sometimes the missionaries know that story, but um, sometimes they don't. Every time I go in, I'm like, okay, so we're going to talk about Lane Newberry and how cool he
Let me give you a tour of the culture hall.
is. So now you guys
Oh,
all
that's
know about
really
Lane
cool.
Newberry,
Yes.
and when you're there, you can find his paintings of Nauvoo are really incredible, and they really tell that story of Nauvoo.
That's really special. I love that. Well, and I have my fourth great grandfather is Hiram Smith. So I
Nice.
have very strong ties to Nauvoo. And so I love seeing that city preserved and, just all that history. It's so fun to be able to pass on to these other generations and see what it really would have been like.
There's so many family ties that really come back here to Nauvoo. Family Search, the Family Search Center here, you can go and you can put in and see all your Nauvoo ancestors that were here, and it's so fun.
Let's talk about the events and time of year that would be fun for families to visit or different activities that are fun for families when they're in Nauvoo.
So there's stuff going on in Nauvoo all year round. And I think that's something that not a lot of people know is that we do have activities all year. My personal favorite time to be in Nauvoo is in the fall. I love fall and I love, the change of leaves and colors and stuff. And Nauvoo has some amazing fall activities. So they have Scarecrow Walk. So for the whole month of October, there are scarecrows up and down Mulholland, and they're themed. Every year is a different theme for the scarecrows, and they are so imaginative and fun, and it's always different every year. Um, and then we have Pumpkin Walk, which is the Saturday before Halloween. And Pumpkin Walk, they carve over 600 different jack-o'-lanterns. They line Mulholland Street, and they have a big Halloween parade. And Pumpkin Walk is, I always say it should be in all caps with glitter because it is just that amazing of an event.
We only missed it by about a week.
Yeah, you missed it by about a week, but now you know that Halloween
I
and
know. We'll have to
fall,
plan it better next time. But the scarecrows were so fun.
they are. The scarecrows are just fun, and they are up all month long. So no matter when you come in October, you can definitely see the scarecrows. Even if you miss Pumpkin Walk, it's still great.
Anything that you wish that more people knew about Nauvoo?
Well, two things. I'll tell you two things that I wish people knew about Nauvoo is that people do live here. It's a real town. I think a lot of times people just go down to the historic sites and don't realize that we have a real town. There's a mayor. I'm a tourism director. There's school, but yeah, Nauvoo is a real town. Yeah, I do live in Nauvoo all year. People find that hard to believe and amazing, but I do, and it's fun and I love it. And then yeah, the second thing is that the historic sites are open year round, that you can come anytime to stay in Nauvoo and visit those historic sites. We have a great accommodations here in town, even if it's not like a chain hotel or something like that. We do have a lot of really amazing places to stay, and you can come any time of year. And the historic sites are open all year round. And it's kind of fun because when you go in the off season, a lot of times it's just you on and your family on the tour. And then you can ask a bazillion questions. So if you've got the kid who has to ask 100,000 questions, they can totally do that in the off season and have that one-on-one time with the missionaries. It's great.
I love that. So we were in Nauvoo about 10 years ago, and we went in the winter, and it was over that break in between Christmas and New Year's, so we had a
Yep.
little bit of time off school, and it was so cold. There were ice storms happening while we were in Nauvoo, and my
Yes.
kids are crying as we're leaving the hotel to get in the car because it was so cold, and we're on the wagon ride, and bless them, they have all these blankets that you can throw on you and quilts and that are wonderful. But I have to say, I never really had thought about what it would feel like in that kind of cold for the Saints when they were chased out of Nauvoo by the
Hmm.
mobs in that icy weather. It
Yeah.
just made things so into such a different perspective for me. I just couldn't believe. I mean, my kids are crying getting in the car for 5 minutes going different places. I can't imagine just, okay,
Yeah.
kids, we're going to go live in the wilderness for who knows how long till we can rebuild a home somewhere.
Yes,
I can't
absolutely. And
imagine that
I
experience.
in February, when the Saints actually made that trip across the river, they have the annual commemoration of that, and so they'll walk, with the wagons down to the river to do that commemoration, and that is such a moving experience to be there and do that, and to see, what what it's like in Illinois in February,
Oh yeah, no,
to
it's
cross the river.
powerful.
Yeah. Mhm. And to
No,
think of the
that
faith and the strength that they had
oh,
to just walk across a frozen river, um, and to do that is just incredible. Yeah, it really is very moving. That whole you can do that what they call the Trail of Hope all year round, where you can make that walk down to the
yeah.
Mississippi River, and they have some signage there that talks about the different pioneers and their stories. And that I highly recommend doing that just because it puts things more into perspective of their stories and what they do.
That was actually one of my favorite spots this time. I don't know if it had been up there last time or if it was just so cold or if it's newer in the past 10 years, but I loved it because my kids were kind of toured out at that point in the day. We just had a picnic lunch and we were going down the street and I loved that they were finding praying mantises to play with and like running around doing their thing. But I was having a moment, you can see
Yeah.
across the field the temple and you're leaving the temple and you're walking toward the river and then like you said reading the signage going down there, which is all the personal experiences of people who lived there and left there. And I
Mhm.
mean, it was just incredible, but it was also nice because even though I'm playing mom here, they can run and play and I can still have a moment. So it was a really great place to do that, was on that Trail
Yeah,
of Hope.
that the Trail of Hope then goes into the River Walk, and the River Walk is one of my favorite things to do, like, every day. Like, if I'm having a day where I just need to get away for a little bit, I think we
If
all
we
have
find
those
you at
days.
the River Walk, we might no, just kidding.
If I'm down there sitting at the Riverwalk, no. I mean, it's just such a peaceful, quiet place to sit and just kind of relax. And you've got the water and the birds and just kind of that whole nature experience that is just really a grounding place for me to go and
Mhm.
sit and relax. And I think, I think that works that way for everybody too. But even the kids can just run and walk along that river walk and just kind of have a time to like get away and kind of like recenter and ground ourselves. That water, hearing the water from the river is so fun too. I love that.
Well, and my kids loved throwing rocks in the river, and it was just a nice break from some of the tours that we'd been seeing in the historic homes to just get that wiggle energy out and
Hmm.
go play a little bit, in between things that we were doing. I really loved that spot
Yeah.
was great. Is there anything else you wanted to share? Anything I missed?
Um, let's see. I think we've pretty much hit all of it. I mean, definitely follow the beautiful Nauvoo website and our
Mhm.
Facebook and Instagram, and we're on YouTube and Pinterest as well. So you can follow us there to kind of keep up to date with everything that's going on in Nauvoo. We share some gorgeous pictures, and so if you need that little bit of Nauvoo, you can always like look at our social media accounts and kind of get a little touch of Nauvoo. So,
Yeah, and I'll add all of those in our show notes so people can just click right over there and find it easy. And
yeah.
also, I've created a blog post about all the things that we think are the most family-friendly things to do in Nauvoo. So if you're going with young kids, or even my teenagers are sometimes more wiggly than my young kids, but um,
Yeah.
for maybe more of the shorter attention spans or just need a little bit more excitement, that's a really good post that outlines all the different things. And we include things like the scarecrows and the fairy doors and the things that you want to look for around town too. So I'll also have that linked. But before you go, I want to do our three helpful and happy questions together really quickly.
Okay.
So
I look
I love to include this because helping of happiness, what we're doing is that we are doing our best to empower moms and families to just have more fun in their life. Like, let's just get a little helping of things more happy because things are hard when you're doing family life sometimes. And we do that by sharing family recipes, travel tips, and then just little home hacks that maybe make life a little bit easier. So, my first question for you is what is your favorite food or meal?
I love pumpkin pie.
Mm,
I
this is your
you,
time of year then.
this is
Wonderful.
my time of year. I have an October birthday, and so since I was 10, I've had a pumpkin pie birthday. They stuck candles and pumpkin pie for me, and I love pumpkin pie and pumpkin everything. It's my favorite.
I love that we have that in common because my birthday's in November and my mom would almost every year do pumpkin pie as my birthday cake because I
Oh,
love
see,
pumpkin
it's a
pie.
thing. Everybody's kind of like, you did what now?" I'm like, "No, I don't get a birthday cake. I get pumpkin pie and we put
Yeah.
candles in it. It's a thing." I'm
So
so
you now have
glad
a
that I'm
person.
not the only one who had that happen because it's a thing and I think it should be a thing.
No, it's great. And I'm all for any dessert that you want can be your birthday cake. Like we do
Yes.
cookies and ice cream or waffles or whatever you want as your cake. Whatever dessert you like, that should be your favorite. If it's pumpkin pie, fantastic.
Yep,
Oh, I
that's
love that.
my thing.
I love it. I love it. Okay, best trip you've ever gone on or a dream vacation?
Let's see. I did this trip, um, we called it a nor'easter trip because we flew into New York. Did New York City for a day, which absolutely cannot be done in a day, but we did like a quick little like, oh, there's Rockefeller Center type thing. We got on a train, went to Sleepy Hollow, and so
Oh, fun.
back to me loving October. Yeah, I went to Sleepy Hollow, and that was just as fun as it sounds, and seeing all that. And then we drove through Vermont in October with all the leaves. I visited a great aunt in Vermont. And then we drove to Boston and flew out of Boston. And so we walked the Freedom Trail in Boston and got to see all that. And that was one of my favorite trips. I loved it. It was so much fun. And just we saw so much on that week that it was
Yes.
just incredible. And yeah, that was my favorite.
I'm with you in all those places. I love New York City. I love Boston in the fall. My husband and I did a trip to
It was
Boston a couple years ago in the
oh,
fall, and it was magical.
it
And we
I
went up through
loved
New Hampshire to
Boston.
Maine. Oh,
Mm,
loved it.
yes.
Beautiful.
It was gorgeous, and yeah, that driving through Vermont with the trees changing color, everybody had talked about it. I finally got to do it, and it was so incredible. So yeah, that trip was amazing. I loved it.
No, leaf peeping really lives up to the hype. It's really amazing. They're just so beautiful. I love it.
Mhm. Absolutely.
Okay, our last question is, do you have a homemaking hack for us?
Um, well, so this one, it's kind of a hack, but it's also kind of like a life thing is
Perfect.
don't stress the small stuff. If something happens to slide, it's not the end of the world. I think a lot of times we get wrapped up in I forgot to do this and I forgot to do that, and maybe that fly lady list of cleaning is like, oh my gosh, I need to do all this stuff, and if you fast forward 5-10 years, nobody's going to remember that you forgot to do the dishes that night, but your kids are going to remember that you took the time to sit down with them to read a story. So, yeah.
I love that. That is a good advice for all of us. Go do the fun stuff in Nauvoo. Go with your family.
Yes.
Go visit Nauvoo. It's a wonderful place. We had such a fun time. And it's one of those places where we're probably going to be going back every so often. It's kind of in the loop of things places that we want to go with our family because it's just great. And I love the history and the fun. And
Yeah.
you'll have to
I
look
think
more on the blog post of like all the fun things that we
yeah,
did.
I think there's so much to do in Nauvoo that you can really make it different every time you come. Like you
Mhm.
can spend like one whole trip just like looking for all the fairy stuff or just doing all the history stuff. And there's just so much to do. We have like 20 different museums here in Nauvoo, and that's counting the church historic sites as one. So there's just tons
You're
and
like,
tons of
that's
stuff
just
here.
one museum. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
one.
I love
And so yeah,
I
there's
love
so much to do here that yeah, it's fun. I love Nauvoo, obviously.
I love it too. Well, thank you so much, Becca, for coming on and telling us about your beautiful, charming city. It is just really fun to hear all about your views of Nauvoo, and we can't wait to go back.
Well, thanks for having me on. It was so much fun to talk to you, and I'm so glad you got to come and enjoy Nauvoo.
Thank you again for being here. Once again, make sure that you check our show notes because our show notes have got the links that goes to the Nauvoo post. We're also going to link up to our own brick ice cream recipe that we created. And then there will be anything that you need to contact Becca in there as well to learn more about Nauvoo. So have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for being here. We love having you here with us to get a little helping of happiness.